It looks like just another typical day in the city until out of the blue, a traffic jam creates a stir among the local drivers. A businessman comes to a sudden halt in the middle of the street because, for some unknown reason, he's suddenly lost his vision. A bunch of people gather to assist him, and a guy steps up to drive him back home. However, as soon as they arrive and the businessman steps out of the car, a thief seizes the opportunity and drives off with the car. The businessman is left stranded, but in a matter of seconds, the thief reappears, pretending to be a different person. He offers to help the businessman reach his apartment and even offers his company for the afternoon. This time, the businessman isn't fooled, and once he's safely home, he kicks the thief out. After a few hours, the businessman's wife shows up, and upon learning about her husband's sudden blindness, she takes him to see a specialist. Due to the urgency, they're allowed to jump ahead in the line and get seen first. Unfortunately, no matter which medical device the doctor employs to examine the businessman's eyes, there are no apparent signs of damage or illness. This suggests a neurological issue. The doctor recommends that the businessman go to a hospital for further tests, though this situation is completely unfamiliar to the doctor. Once the couple leaves, the doctor attends to his other patients, including a child, a woman wearing sunglasses, and a man with an eye patch. Meanwhile, the thief is cruising around town in the stolen car, attempting to evade the police. Eventually, he's forced to pull over as he too suddenly loses his sight. He seeks help from the police and is taken back to his former home, where his ex-wife turns him away. Later that evening, the woman with sunglasses goes to a hotel. She orders a drink at the bar before heading upstairs to meet her client. The encounter goes smoothly, but things take a turn for the worse when her vision abruptly turns white. The doctor finishes his day and enjoys a pleasant dinner with his wife. However, the next morning they wake up to a shocking realization: both of them have lost their sight as well. Concerned about a potential spreading infection, they contact the hospital. Their warning is taken seriously as a child is also affected. Soon, cases of sudden blindness start cropping up all over the city, prompting the government to take action. The doctor's office is shut down by the authorities, and the doctor himself is placed under quarantine. Not wanting to be separated from him, his wife decides to pretend she's blind too in order to join him in quarantine. The couple is taken to an abandoned asylum, devoid of any other medical professionals. Each ward is equipped with a phone for emergencies, to be operated by a designated representative. More individuals arrive, including the thief, the woman with sunglasses, the child, and the businessman. The doctor and his wife agree to keep her vision a secret. By claiming that she explored and memorized the layout upon arrival, she becomes the guide for the group when they require assistance, such as finding their way to the restroom. During their initial outing from the room, the thief walks behind a woman wearing sunglasses and becomes a bit too touchy, prompting her to react by kicking him in the leg. Her high-heeled shoe causes a severe injury that the doctor and his wife end up wrapping with a shirt due to the absence of a first aid kit. Later on, the doctor's wife is unable to sleep, worried about the possibility of the thief's leg getting infected and fearful of going blind herself. The doctor attempts to initiate intimacy, but she chooses to take a walk to manage her anxieties instead. The following morning, more individuals arrive, and the businessman is finally reunited with his wife, while the child expresses sadness that his mother hasn't shown up yet. The doctor and his wife make an effort to speak with the guards and request assistance for the injured thief, but the guards are uncooperative, brandishing their weapons and forcing them back to their room with threats. Sometime later, they receive their initial food supply, which is comparable to the quality of food found in a school or prison cafeteria, and there isn't enough of it. The doctor's wife tries to use the emergency phone to ask for more food and a first aid kit, but her calls go unanswered, with only an answering machine on the other end where she leaves numerous messages. Weeks go by, and each day sees an increasing number of infected individuals being brought to the facility. The doctor's wife sets up a makeshift guide using a cloth line between the wards. The doctor is chosen to represent Ward 1, but maintaining order becomes an impossible task. Since everyone is sightless, they gradually lose concern for cleanliness, and people start wandering around without clothing and relieving themselves in the hallway. The businessman attempts to uplift his spirits by reminiscing about happier times with his wife, but she can't bear to think about such moments. One afternoon, the doctor's wife hears a noise and discovers that the man with an eye patch has a radio, which he's been listening to in private. She persuades him to share the news with everyone, as they're all desperate to learn about the outside world. The eye patch man reveals that only a few stations remain operational. He managed to gather that within the first day, hundreds of cases emerged, prompting the government to isolate the blind individuals in the asylum and ask everyone else to stay home. However, even the experts were baffled, holding conferences that essentially conveyed their lack of understanding. As time passed, the specialists themselves got infected, and the illness spread internationally. With impatience growing, people defied the lockdown and tried to leave their homes, but the military enforced strict rules, arresting rule breakers. The city descended into chaos, marked by frequent car accidents and even plane crashes. Fearful citizens eventually opted to stay home, resulting in a deserted city. The government, also afflicted by blindness, remained inactive. Several days later, a large group of infected individuals is brought to the asylum, and the soldiers' brutality is showcased, and they shoot a man for accidentally stepping out of line. The sound of the gunshot triggers panic, leading everyone to rush indoors, pushing and breaking doors in their frenzy. Adding to the distress, the soldiers neglect to retrieve the man's body. Hoping to bury the body themselves, the doctor's wife requests a shovel, which the soldiers toss into the yard from their towers. Pretending to be blind, the doctor's wife seeks directions, and the soldiers play games until she locates the shovel and gestures her defiance at them. Meanwhile, the doctor is attempting to communicate with the representatives of the other wards to coordinate the burials, as 2 more individuals have been shot. He also wants to address the issue of one ward consuming more food than their fair share. The bartender becomes fed up with the doctor's attempts at leadership and proclaims himself the ruler of Ward 3. His first decree is that his ward can eat as much as they want before assisting with the bodies. Later, the doctor's wife checks on the thief, who has a fever due to a serious leg infection. She tries to provide support, but the thief unexpectedly threatens her by revealing he knows she isn't blind. This revelation causes the wife to rush back to her husband and experience a breakdown. Unable to endure the pain any longer, the thief drags himself outside and is shot by soldiers. Feeling guilt-ridden, the doctor's wife contemplates revealing the truth to everyone, but the doctor prevents her from doing so. He also expresses concern that their relationship has shifted more towards that of a nurse and patient rather than a marriage. Eventually, the bartender, aided by the accountant who has a better understanding of navigating life without sight, discovers the asylum's administrative office. Using the public address system, the bartender declares himself the king of the asylum and enforces a new rule where people must pay for their food. This rule sparks chaos near the food storage area as individuals compete for access. The bartender reveals his hidden card, a handgun, to restore order and takes control of the food storage, threatening anyone attempting to steal. The doctor's wife starts collecting valuables from her ward members, even retaining a pair of scissors from a woman's bag. The child and sunglasses woman, who has become a surrogate mother to him, make arrangements for his sustenance. Meanwhile, the accountant employs his sensory skills to assess the quality of objects brought in by touch. Despite the value of the jewelry, the bartender allocates only a few boxes per ward and silences any complaints. The shortage leads to one-person meals, and the doctor withdraws from his leadership role, feeling like a failure. Sunglasses woman consoles him and their interaction becomes intimate. While the doctor's wife discovers them in a compromising situation, she chooses not to create a scene. Instead, she confides in Sunglasses woman that she is aware of her sight, urging her to keep the secret and allowing guilt to play its part. A week later, with supplies depleted, the bartender proposes that women provide services in exchange for food. The doctor's wife questions the absence of new rations from the soldiers and learns that they've given all they have, leaving rationing to the asylum's inhabitants. An argument arises in Ward 1 regarding the next steps, but the doctor intervenes, asserting that it's not their place to dictate the actions of the women. He emphasizes that volunteering should be a personal choice without judgment or pressure. After contemplation, one woman volunteers, inspiring others like the doctor's wife and Sunglasses woman to follow suit. The businessman attempts to prevent his wife from participating, but she asserts her equality and goes ahead. The accountant escorts the women to the food storage room, where they experience a harrowing night. The dudes are real mean and rough, and one of them goes so far with the rough treatment that he accidentally kills one of the women. In the morning, the doctor's wife asks for someone else to go and pick up the grub because the women have come back with the body in their hands, ready to clean her up and give her a proper farewell. Later that day, the accountant checks another section for more volunteers, and he even has the guts to swing by section 1 to give them props on a job well done, even if one of them didn't do much. It seems they don't know that one of the women had already passed away, and they used her anyway. So, the doctor's wife lets him know, leaving him stunned. All this teasing finally makes the doctor's wife lose it. She takes the scissors and heads to the storage room, where everyone is distracted by the women from the second section. Without hesitating, she uses the scissors to kill the bartender and then drags the girls with her. The accountant realizes what happened and grabs a gun, but he can't hit any of his shots. On her way out, the doctor's wife makes her own announcement. If they don't hand over the food, more guys will bite the dust. Now she's the one in charge. The doctor is worried this will start a big fight, and he's right. The third section blocks off the area and still refuses to give up the food. The first section gets ready to fight and get back what's rightfully theirs, but before they can do anything, one of the women decides to get revenge. Turns out she's been hiding a lighter in her pocket all this time, and she uses it to sneak into the third section and start a fire. The flames spread fast, killing many guys. Just before panic sets in, the doctor's wife leads them out of the building. Surprisingly, nobody gets shot because the guards have left their posts. The doors aren't locked either, which can only mean one thing: they're finally free. The doctor, his wife, the kid, the guy with the eye patch, the lady with sunglasses, the businessman, and his wife decide to stick together as they head downtown. There, they discover that society has fallen apart. The city has turned into a post-apocalyptic wasteland where the few remaining people scavenge around, attacking each other if they think there's food in someone's pockets. Some animals are even feasting on bodies. The doctor and his wife leave the group hidden in a bar while they go to the nearest market to find some grub. People there are grabbing whatever's left on the shelves, but the doctor's wife spots a set of stairs that leads her to a storage room. The doctor grabs some clothes. After filling a few bags, the wife tries to leave, but the folks there hear the noise from her bags and jump her to steal her stuff. Luckily, the doctor hears it and rushes to help, pushing everyone away and shielding his wife as they escape the building. Once they're a safe distance away, the wife takes a moment to compose herself, while the doctor goes back to pick up the clothes he dropped during their escape. A friendly dog seizes the opportunity to come closer and befriend her. Out of the blue, it starts raining, and the wife takes the dog with her into a church to wait for her husband under a dry roof. The church is packed, and all the statues have had their eyes covered, yet a priest keeps preaching. Outside, people are using the rain to collect water and clean themselves since they haven't had clean water in a long time. The doctor returns with the clothes and picks up his wife. They rejoin the group, with the dog tagging along as their new buddy. The group eats some rations inside the bar and decides to spend the night there to rest up. The next morning, they head out again, carefully navigating the city to reach the doctor and his wife's house. They've offered to share it with everyone. From then on, the group manages to establish a routine. Guided by the wife's sharp observation, they tidy up the apartment, share the doctor's clothes, venture out for food only when necessary, and gather water and wash when it rains. The guy with the eye patch wants to stick with them forever since they've become a family, and the businessman's wife finally reconnects with her husband, reminiscing about their younger days. The doctor and his wife also get a chance to reconnect. With her stress diminished, she's open to getting intimate with him again. Weeks later, everyone is getting ready for breakfast when the businessman suddenly starts yelling. In the same sudden manner that blindness had come upon him, it disappears, and he can see again. Everyone starts celebrating as they realize their bodies can fight off the disease and blindness is temporary. Hope is back for their futures.